This is the basic version of the sandbag half flip raises, as I like to call them. If you are training with a heavy sandbag, no matter what exercises your training consists of exactly, you can always include this one in your thorough warm-up routine. Compared to fully flipping the sandbag over, it provides you with a bit of an eccentric phase too, but to be honest, the difference is minuscule. So if you have enough space, you can just as well flip it over completely, repeatedly. And so on. Now, so far, this is pretty intuitive, right? Flipping it over repeatedly is probably the most common method of moving a sandbag from point A to point B without wasting much strength for the actual workout. But what if we make it a bit more interesting? And by interesting, I mean challenging, of course. I'm using one of my plyo boxes here, turned to 30 centimeters height. If your sandbag is shorter than this one, you can upend it onto an aerobic step, for example. The yoga mat's purpose is to prevent slipping, of course. Raising a sandbag like this is still considerably easier than picking it up as a whole and lifting it onto your lap. Especially if you put your knees under it and readjust your grip first before you bring it to the upright position. To be able to do this movement for more than a couple of reps in a row, as you should, make sure there is some space between the edge of the plyo box and the sandbag. Otherwise, the sandbag might slip down after the first rep already. As you can see, I like to perform the first pull from the floor explosively, even though with this variation I wouldn't have to yet. That's because as soon as we increase the difficulty even more, explosiveness stops being an option and becomes a necessity. To keep the injury risk minimal, make sure to brace your core and straighten your back as much as possible at the start of each rep anew. So now, as you can see, I'm skipping the stop on my knees. During the lift, I still have to switch my hands position from pulling to kind of shoving. That might interrupt the flow of the movement a bit, but still it's pretty much one motion now. This difficulty level should feel not in the least boring anymore. Otherwise your sandbag is too light. Because this exercise was purposefully designed to be done with the heaviest sandbag you have at hand. Because if you think about it, on the one hand you want to have a goal sandbag you can't shoulder yet. That is what gives your training direction and provides motivation after all. But on the other hand, it can also be a bit frustrating if this sandbag is just sitting around most of the time, seeing as you can't do much with it yet and lifting it in whichever way is so exhausting. So what I'm teaching you in this video is practically how to not lift your heaviest sandbag, at least not the whole of it, and still engage it in a fruitful manner by merely leveraging it. So here I have maxed out the height of the plyo box. 40 centimeters is what allowed me to still do 2 reps with this specific sandbag before I had to readjust it in order to prevent the upper end from slipping down. That process can be really cumbersome and in any case will interrupt your set. But then again, at this angle the exercise will mostly train your explosiveness from the ground. And the optimal way to do that is by focusing anew each time and tackling each rep as a single one anyway. As you can see here, the slipping down problem can even occur at a lower height. As I've told you before, you have to leave some space between the edge of the plyo box and the sandbag when it's standing on top of it. Yeah, obviously I had to learn that the hard way. So what if you don't have a plyo box of an appropriate size? How about using a smaller sandbag instead? It even has an advantage, namely that it will never tilt like you've seen the box do in the previous take. Intuitively, I tend to recommend to use a densely packed sandbag like my DIY model here as a platform. But unfortunately, since I don't have a more loosely packed one at hand right now, I wasn't able to draw a comparison. And that's all I meant to tell you about this new exercise variation so far. If you have any further questions about it, please ask them in your comment below. And if you liked this video, you find many more of that kind in my playlist, stuff I came up with myself. Thanks for watching. My name is Florian and I'll continue to make an effort so that you don't get bored with your training.